people's mind is the health. That's why we're out of our families spending all this time going to meetings, is because we're concerned about our family's health. And yet the public health agencies are not there. Goods movement is considered a commerce issue. Nowhere does the public health agency step in and voice their concerns. And so we are constantly on this battle. What are you, as federal agencies, going to do to step into specifically the goods movement industry, which is expanding? We are spending federal money, billions of dollars, on infrastructure to expand goods movement, not only to ports, and as the Panama Canal opens up, we're going to have more and more of that coming, but also inland, where they're putting the warehouses. And we have this huge health crisis occurring that is preventable, and we're not doing a damn thing about it. How are you going to help?
Okay, so why don't we turn back to the panel? Who would like to address both of the questions that you have heard?
Can I just make one comment, the young women? I don't know what organization you're from, but one of the things that you might want to do, I mean, I hear what you're saying about not having necessarily the research background, but you understand the research needs. I might suggest partnering with academia, to work with academia in order to be competitive for, no. Okay.
It is very difficult.
And what I'm saying is that there should be an opportunity to make grants that are easier to get for communities.
One of the
Shouldn't have to have a PhD to do a health study in my community.
No, well, okay. One of the other things that I note that some of the health agencies are starting to do is that they're on their grants review panels. They're putting people on those panels who are not necessarily PhD, but people from communities to review the grants. So that may be an opportunity for you to want to volunteer to be on these grants panels. I know HRSA does this a lot, and I've served on some of these grant panels where we have social workers, community organizers, and so on in order to review grants. Now that does two things. Number one, it gives a different perspective on the significance of the grants, but also the people who serve on these panels then learn what gets funded, so that when you go to write your grants, you know a little bit more knowledgeable about writing grants. So that may be.
So I think part of the question here is, and the statement is, if the paradigm doesn't change, if the criteria doesn't change, then our communities really don't get served. So I think many of us have gotten masterful, or we've rounded up people who are masterful, and we can write really good grant proposals and do good partnerships, but we still don't qualify because we don't have all the letters after our names and all of that. And so, not to put words in Stephanie's mouth, but I think that the paradigm's got to shift. So if any of you have ideas about that framework changing, I think we'd love to hear that.
I know one of the things we're doing in terms of sort of building from the ground up is really beginning to think about funding what's called capacity building. I know that's sort of an ambiguous term, but capacity building down at the local level, where the folks that are in the communities have the wherewithal. If that's grant writing, let's do that. You tell us what you need in terms of capacity. And it's that capacity that's needed at the core traditional delivery of basic, almost forgot about, traditional environmental health services. I mean, where are we when we're talking about just having clean water, safe food, just the basics for which we have tended to forget about? We're talking about local public health departments, local environmental departments, local housing departments, all of us sort of working together at the grassroots with those core traditional services and building capacity at the local level. We wanted to put sort of a sexy term and a sexy fling to it, but basic core capacity building is all we could think of at the local level.
We all understand that.
We all know what that means. So that gives people sort of a cachet of things to think about in terms of building capacity at the local level.
So on to the second question. So Shelley?
Yeah, one of the concerns that we have is that when we look at the evidence, where you live, your zip code, has a tremendous bearing on your life outcomes, your health outcomes. Deputy Sims is here, and he'll speak more about that. And that has had a profound shaping to our thinking about how we set the table for response to these complex issues. I'm from California, so I'm tracking what you're saying. And I think often, the decisions about transportation and goods movement are done in one group. The decisions about, how we're going to solve our air quality problems and water quality problems are a different group. Housing and development and jobs are a completely different group. And we don't think that's a sustainable strategy. At the federal level, we formed a partnership between Department of Transportation, Environmental Protection Agency, and Housing and Urban Development called the Partnership for Sustainable Communities. And we have, within this group, a significant focus on environmental justice, trying to look at cross-cutting ways we can really attack these issues. They are not single-issue problems. And just one example. We were able, with 2010 funding that was appropriated from Congress, to stand up a new Sustainable Communities Regional Planning Grant Program. And the intent of this program was to tackle these issues in an integrated, interdisciplinary, cross-sector, really bring all the players to the table. We heard in so many places that there was just a disconnect between real measurement of outcomes and actual, proposals, plans, investments on the ground. So we first asked all our grantees to provide data. We gave them the data. We asked them, take this data and really tell us how you're trying to integrate it in a common sense way. Frankly, the folks that won this grant competition were the ones that could really articulate how these data points affected all communities, particularly disadvantaged communities. The second thing that we've done is that we have embedded deep incentives for collaboration in both the kind of community engagement piece, but also in the governance structures of these grants processes, so that we're ensuring that as this, admittedly longer-term strategy is stood up, we are able to build the capacity to ensure that we're actually dealing with the issues in a comprehensive way.
I want to try to answer, Penny, your question, and you said how can federal agencies go in and get the local health departments, for example, to stand up and act up. And I guess I can't speak from the federal point, but I think I might have some suggestions just in terms of how to get local health agencies a little bit more mobilized and engaged. You're talking not about a scientific struggle, but I think you're talking about political struggle. And what I hear people asking for is the alliances with the health agency, who should be the advocates and the defenders of health, with you. I think real pressure and political pressure needs to come to bear on local public health agencies at a local level when they do not meet their mandates. That is what brought it. We have our work in San Francisco did not exist a while ago. It was community pressure that over time built the demand and who we were hiring and what values those people had, and built that work. And that pressure, and it has to end. Public health agencies often share values and are friends, but they need to be often forced to come and to do these jobs, and then they'll come to love it, of course. But that really needs to happen, and really powerful things can happen working when those collaborations are developed. For example, the issue of pedestrian fatalities has been raised in San Francisco. It wasn't an issue we were working on originally, but we could bring analysis to the table, and we were, for example, able to show that 50% of the injuries are suffered by 20% of the population. And it allows us a reframing, a collective reframing of it, and getting to everyone, walking safely should be an environmental right. And so I think public health can really, but they're going to need to be pushed often to the table.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so Eddie is going to go, and then we're going to do kind of, Sakobi, you're going to go next, and then we're going to do a little lightning, okay? So we're going to get right to the point, and Sakobi's going to think about it and really model that, because we're going to do lightning round after this. Get right to the point, right after Eddie, so you're going to be the model of brief.
I'm going to get right to the point. From a political standpoint, since this was mentioned, I feel the burning need to say this. As an organization that gets no government funding, I'm kind of liberated, so I can say this. I want my brothers and sisters in the audience who are advocates to, we've not mentioned this at all today, and I'm shocked, but mostly because most of the folks up here have been government employees and can't say this. These midterm elections mean there is a tidal wave of people coming to D.C. that don't want any government. And mind you, we're being live streamed right now, and some of them are watching us right now. So I just want folks to recognize that as impatient as you are, as we are, some of the changes that you're hearing about here is about changing the Titanic and shifting it, right? It doesn't happen quickly. And there are people on their way. I didn't turn it off. Somebody, see, they pulled the mic on me already. See what I'm saying? My point is that a lot of these initiatives are threatened to be stillborn in the next Congress. So everybody that's here, be mindful when the congressional hearings come, when they start asking, what is EJ, what is this about, what is this preferential treatment, we got to get down and get busy. Because what you're hearing now is an attempt to go back against decades of injustice. Don't happen overnight, and already the attack is coming.
Thank you.
I'm going to pass my time to some advocates who haven't spoken yet. So for the folks,
so are you giving up the mic?
Community members who haven't spoken yet, you can go ahead and take my time.
You are a good man. Okay, over here.
Hi, thank you. My name is Michelle Roberts, Advocates for Environmental Human Rights. I'm going to make this fast. I would like for you to help the folks in Bayview Hunters Point, San Francisco Health Department. They've been calling for you for a mighty long time, and unfortunately, the phone has not been answered, so we'd like for you to help them. Second, HRSA grant. We would like for you to help the community of Mossville, Louisiana. They applied for a grant. They have 3 times the amount of dioxin in their blood, and it's in there all throughout their waterways, their houses, and everything. And they came to you, ATSDR, CDC, and you told them to fill out the HRSA grant. Stephanie, they filled the grant out, they got denied. They said it wasn't cost effective. They need health care in that community. They were your original sustainable community. And lastly, to HUD, it is my fervent prayer that this sustainable communities development piece, or whatever it is that you're calling it today, is not a program that will push people out of their communities, people who have been living historically in let's keep it real, some of these communities are near waterways and all the beautiful pathways that everybody wants to come back from the suburbs to be in. I live in Washington, D.C., and watching people be moved daily. So I'm hoping that this is not the new gentrifying wave, but I would like to know, A, are you going to help Bayview Hunters Point because they are pushing depleted uranium all around these babies while they're in school? B, how are we going to get free health services, not cost, free health services to Mossville, Louisiana? And C, is this sustainable communities piece going to be a piece that's not going to move people out of their communities, but let them be the first line to have a green community like they've been asking for well over 30 years? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. With the beautiful green jacket. Thank you.
Oh, it was you. Okay. What I